Good afternoon, Central Oregon and beyond. This is Josh coming at you with another episode of Apres Chats. Here in Central Oregon, we all love to get outside to play, whether we're getting up to the mountain, getting out to the lakes and rivers to paddle, or getting out to the rocks to climb. We all love getting outside and enjoying some of that Central Oregon sunshine. But afterwards, we all love coming down to the local watering hole and cracking a cold one with the crew and just enjoying some of those Apres Chats. On today's episode, I sit down with John Merriman, the president of Mt Bachelor, to talk about his first year here operating Mt Bachelor and all the future plans that they have going on. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, sit down, crack a cold one, and get ready for some Apres Chats. Good afternoon, Central Oregon and beyond. This is Josh coming at you with episode 5 of Apres Chats on an absolutely beautiful day up here on the Mount. It's closing weekend. It's Friday. The snow was phenomenal today. We got a super fun weekend coming up, but I am extremely excited about today's episode of Apres Chats. I'm excited about today's guest. Today we have John Merriman sitting down with me. He is the general manager, president, whatever you like to call him up here at Mt Bachelor. He is the head honcho. He's the one calling the shots and helping run the show and make all this run smoothly. John, how are you doing today, man?
I'm great, Josh. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for sitting down with us. Did you get out there and ride today?
I did.
Awesome.
Summit was phenomenal.
I didn't actually make it up Summit. I was kind of hot lapping park all day.
Nice.
But it was riding good. It was definitely fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Favorite run of the day?
Bev's. Yeah.
Bev's is good. It's hard to
beat. You can't beat it. And I hit it at just the right time. Yeah. I mean, it was perfect consistency.
Awesome. So you've been in Bend for about a year now, right?
Yep.
Awesome. And you came from Copper, but is that where you're originally from, or
Nope.
where are you originally from?
I'm from Maine originally. Gotcha. So I've just moved progressively west as life has gone on. But yeah, grew up in Maine and moved to Colorado for college.
Gotcha. And were you in Colorado all the way up until the time you were at Copper, and then just about till last year, basically?
Almost. We did a couple of years in Houston, Texas, which not a lot of skiing in Houston, Texas. But yeah, did a couple of years there and then moved back to Colorado.
Very cool. How long were you working at Copper for?
I started at Copper right around Thanksgiving in 2016.
Gotcha.
So I was there for almost 7 years before coming here.
Okay. And what was your title? Did you stay in the same job position there? Did you move around a little bit in positions?
It was different. I was, I was in finance before I went to Copper. And then we kind of decided to make a move. We were big skiers. Gotcha. My kids all learned how to ski in Colorado. And, we had a place up in the mountains and just decided needed to change a career and randomly saw on LinkedIn that Copper was hiring a head of finance.
Gotcha.
So I applied for that and luckily, got that job. And from there, just kind of really took to the industry and, expanded my role from beyond finance to, by the time I left, I was overseeing sales, sales support, IT, finance, accounting, and risk management. Very cool.
Yeah. Sweet. Oh yeah. So I'm guessing that was your first job with Powder Corp?
It was.
Awesome. And then did you kind of have Bend in mind
at
any point before that, or you've been looking at Bend for a while?
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious because we had a finance meeting out here. I think it was 2018 or 2019. It was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right around the beginning of May, and we stayed in Bend, had too much fun at some of the local
really
bars. Yeah, I apologize for any trouble we caused down there, but we had so much fun down there and beautiful weather, of course. Yeah. And then came up here and skied and snowboarded in the morning, and then in the afternoon we went over to the back nine. And
I love that golf course.
And played, we did 2 laps through.
Yeah.
A few of us. And I was like, holy cow. I called my wife and I was like, I just skied and golfed on the same day. I was like, this is absolutely amazing. And I was like, if there's ever an opportunity for us to move to Bend, it's totally somewhere we could live.
Yeah.
I mean, it fits our lifestyle perfectly.
That's awesome. When you got the opportunity to come out here, was it Powder Corp approaching you, offering you a job out here, or did you know there was an opening and did you come up to them?
I was called.
Yeah.
I still went through the process. You know, they did a pretty thorough process for the GM, but, you know, I've developed a pretty good relationship with the executives at Powder, and, you know, we've developed kind of a level of trust, you know, when I was at Copper, and, you know, we all felt like I could be a strong candidate, you know, but I was going to have to earn it. You know, nothing was given. Yeah. So, you know, I certainly went through the whole process. I'm sure they had some other great candidates, and, you know, I was just fortunate that they selected me.
That's awesome. You've been liking it, Ben, then?
I love it.
Nice. You've been here, what, like a year and a month?
Almost a year.
Almost a year.
Actually, I started here at Bachelor this week.
Yeah, I remember it was
a year ago.
Your first weekend was pretty much when we first met.
But we didn't actually move here until July.
Yeah.
So, because I was kind of, you know, living in hotels in town and going back to Colorado, you know, for family stuff here and there until about the 1st of July when we actually moved here.
Nice.
But, you know, I feel like there's still so much of the area that I haven't seen yet.
Oh, I mean, I've been living here my whole life, and I still feel like there's things I find every once in a while. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that existed. Yeah. Has the family been liking it over here?
They love it.
Good.
They love it. We're all into the outdoors, and, you know, we love getting out and about.
Right. And you got 2 kids?
3.
3 kids. They've been
2 here.
2 here. Gotcha.
One goes to college in Colorado.
Okay, cool. And the 2 here, which school are they going to?
I have one at Pacific Crest and one at Summit High School.
Nice.
Yep.
Are they ski racing at all through their schools? Or?
No, my youngest did when we were in Colorado, but, you know, she's kind of branched off on her own in her kind of fall winter sport of choice volleyball now. So
gotcha.
They still come up and ski with old dad, and
every once in a while,
you know. But they have all kinds of different interests.
I'm sure. Yeah, the kids are going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
Cool. Well, moving a little more specific to Mt Bachelor topics, because that's kind of why we're all here at the end of the day. So you've done basically a summer season and a winter season here now. Obviously, there's different challenges that come with both of those between smoke and everything and heat in the summer versus like winter time. Obviously, we get crazy storms around here. Which, like, out of the 2 seasons, how's the operational differences for you?
It's completely different than what I was used to.
Yeah.
And it was pretty eye-opening for me because, the people were telling me coming in, you know, this isn't like weather in Colorado. This isn't, you know, things are different. But unless you're actually here to experience it, you don't see it. And I have spent this year learning so much. I mean, honestly, I feel like came in with all these great hopes and dreams of like, oh, we're going to get all of this stuff done. It's going to be so great. We're going to do this, right? And it's like, we've done some pretty important stuff, which is great. But, you know, what I think we don't all realize until we're here is it really is quite a challenge here. You know, in the summer, late summer with smoke, and, you know, we're constantly, did we lose it?
Yeah. Weird GoPro keeps kind of cutting out on us, so there's going to be some lapses in the video, but we're just going to keep restarting it every time it pauses on us, I guess.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But, you know, so in the summer, you know, summer operations here are very unique.
Yeah.
You know, sunset dinners, to anyone who hasn't done one yet, I highly recommend. Super fun, kind of special occasion date night. It is just... the scenery up at the top of Pine, you know, for people is unbelievable.
It's gorgeous.
And, you know, and yeah, we have issues with smoke, you know, here and there. But actually, what I found this year was, sure, we had plenty of issues with smoke, but sometimes it's just hours that you have issues because of wind patterns or whatever. Yeah. And then there's other times that it's fine. You know, we spent a lot of time on the Purple Air website. You know, over the summer. And that's something that, you know, we certainly had issues with wildfires in Colorado, but not to this extent.
Gotcha.
And, you know, so that's certainly something that was new and affects summer operations. But I think the biggest aha for me is just how hard our teams work
Totally.
in the winter. And, that it really is so easy to underestimate what it actually takes.
It's one thing to show up in the morning and hop on a chairlift and ski all day and be like, oh, it's a bit of a storm, but it's not bad. But to be shoveling it and de-icing and dealing with the crosswinds and assessing the safety of a mountain too,
right.
There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, because it's our goal to have everything open always, right? And
Totally.
as soon as humanly possible, because we want to provide the best experience for our guests. That's why we're here,
right?
Right, and there are plenty of days when it takes a couple hours to get use yesterday for instance. Yesterday we had a little bit of a storm overnight. It completely iced Summit over.
Oh yeah,
and so it does take a while. We're out there at 5 a.m. and we're banging ice and we're getting ice off the line. But it takes time for that to all get clear. And then once it gets clear, then we have to send patrol up, and we send patrol up and, it takes some time for them to get everything set up and to assess safety conditions up, up at the top. And so, know that on days that like Summit, for instance, doesn't open till 10:30, whatever time it was yesterday, they're working on 5.5 hours just to make sure that we get that open. And that's very eye-opening to me too, because I thought, we could probably solve that with more people or maybe throw a little bit more money at it or whatever.
Right.
But you can't. We only have so many qualified people that can climb lift towers and, we do our lift maintenance team, I commend always.
Yeah.
Because that was really, back to your question, and sorry for the long answer.
Oh, it's all good.
But that's really, to me, one of the biggest eye-opening things for me is just how hard that team works and how much pride that they take and that patrol takes in making sure that we get that open. There was plenty of times this year that we were the only resort in Oregon open.
Yeah.
And the reasons for that are because our grooming team was so great with what we had to offer, and our lift maintenance team working so hard to get the lifts going and, patrol being all over it. And there was plenty of times where I think other resorts less resilient would not have opened.
Yeah.
And
I think potentially other management previously wouldn't have opened.
Maybe. I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
But I take pride in us, showing that kind of Pacific Northwest fortitude.
For sure.
And knowing that, we're tougher than the weather and we're going to get this open.
Totally. So you mentioned briefly a minute ago that, you came here with a list of different things that you were trying to get done, things you were trying to fix. What are some of the things you're most proud of that you've accomplished in the last year that you've been here and getting done?
Thank you for asking. I'm super proud of the team for, getting the Skyliner lift done, over the summer. That's a huge project. We don't do lift projects every year. Obviously, those are huge. I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
But, the team, I thought, did such a great job. That thing went in, on budget, on schedule.
That's awesome. That takes a huge effort for something like that to stay on budget and schedule.
Right. and I think that lift has changed the dynamic of the mountain. Now, that's just, for me talking to everybody who's on it, because I'd never been on that lift before.
Right.
It has a 4-pack. I've only ridden it as a 6-pack. So, but, we haven't really had to close it for weather.
Yeah.
Maybe just a handful of times.
A little bit of delays
something
for de-icing,
extreme.
Yeah.
Right. But, and it runs at a higher speed than some of the other lifts because it's heavier and it's able to withstand the wind a little bit better. And I think it really helps, harden up the center of the mountain. Yeah. So I think that was huge. But to me, there's really two things on the employee side that I am most proud of.
Okay.
And, and I think it's a community benefit as well as our employee benefit. And number one is employee housing.
Yeah.
So it was important. One of the things I first heard when I got here is that, Bend is a hard place to afford to live.
It's expensive.
And there's no question about it. And, for us, just being able to do the deal with Campfire Hotel where, people could have a really cool spot, to stay at. It's got a great vibe there with the pool and the fire pits and,
the Campfire's a rad place.
Yeah, it's awesome. And having, 30 rooms there has been fantastic for us. And I think, it's a nationwide issue. It's not just a Bend issue about housing and the price of housing and for us to be able to kind of solve that, I think, it's really helped. And it's really, I think, hopefully shown the community that it's possible.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
And do you have, if I could form a coherent sentence here, are you planning on working with Campfire going forward for like next season stuff, or are you looking for other options or more options? Or
we had a 1-year contract with Campfire. We have a great relationship with Campfire, and
awesome.
We're going to continue to talk to them. Over the summer. I think we're both pretty happy with the agreement, so We'll just kind of see how it goes.
Perfect. I love that.
And then, the second thing also for employees is, a recent announcement of ours of daycare full-time year-round.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's a really, really cool offering.
We have lots of young families here as employees. Mm-hmm. And we certainly have lots of young families that come up as guests too. And, I know, from when my children were younger, it's like if you have, one of your kids you want to ski with that's 6 or 7 years old, you have another one that's 2 or 3 years old, not quite ready. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to make that work. And to have the drop off for guests, I think is great. And then we'll have the same ability, in the summer, so that if, someone wants to come up mountain bike, and they have a young kid, they can just, put them in there for a couple of hours and get some mountain biking in or get some zip in, which is great. But the biggest benefit to me is for our employees. We have, lots of employees with young children, and this solved their problem by doing it year round.
Really
because,
cool.
It's super hard when, like, if we offer it in the winter, but then they're scrambling for care in the summer.
Right.
So for us to do that, we are subsidizing that, which I think is an important thing for us to do. But again, I'm hoping that it kind of shows the community that this is possible.
Yeah.
That, we can do this without governmental help. And, without grants or anything like that. And you may lose a few bucks here and there, but to me, it's a real good way to keep your really good employees.
Totally. You're investing in the people that make the place,
exactly.
Not just the bottom dollar sign at the end of the day.
And when I came in, that was my number one thing is how do we take care of our people better? And whether that's our people means our employees or our guests, one and the same, right? Mm-hmm. And so if we can take care of our employees, I know that we will make the guests happy. I know because with happy employees, we get happy guests. So, coming in, that was always goal number one.
Very cool.
Is how do we really improve that employee experience? We've done a lot with, different events and stuff like that. We're going to continue to build on it.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to build on it next year too. And we're going to continue to look for ways to make this place just a cool place to work.
Totally, man. That's awesome. So I guess on that same vein, but kind of on the flip side, what are some things that you wanted to get done that you either haven't quite gotten done yet or that are still in the works or maybe didn't quite work out?
Yeah. Yeah. I would have loved to get a little bit more, how do I put this? I would love to get ahead on getting a new building at Sunrise here. Sooner rather than later. It's kind of a timing thing. That building is probably more of a when as opposed to an if.
Absolutely.
That's our fastest growing area over there. And I was hoping that, even knowing that, we probably aren't going to get that building in the next year or two.
Right.
I thought we could, with some tweaks over at the Sunrise building, we could make the flow a lot better over there.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure that we did. Honestly, I think it's still kind of an area where it feels crowded. It feels busy all the time.
It does just kind of like you get a slightly busier weekend and it does just kind of condense in very quickly over there. Yeah,
and it's uncomfortable. But I think, we've got some plans next year. With kind of some different flow and some kind of, maybe using a little bit more technology for ordering and stuff like that to try to kind of reduce some of the clutter, in there. And, in the meantime, while we, hopefully, in the next year or so, start really planning for what the future is going to look like over there.
Totally. I guess that actually segues pretty nicely into the next question I kind of had. Obviously, we got a lot of projects
Yep.
done this year between like Northwest getting fixed up through like midway through the season, which in and of itself
Yep.
is awesome to be able to do that in the middle of the winter. But aside from like obviously looking at Sunrise and stuff, of course there's like a long-term plan. There's
Sure.
like a 1 year, 10 year,
Yep.
however long plan. What are some of the things you're most excited about that we have coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, that's great. And again, I want to preface this by saying that, none of this is set in stone.
Obviously,
And
it changes
I don't
every
have
year.
good timing, on anything because, everything that we want to do requires Forest Service approval, number one.
Yep.
Because this is their land, and then number two, Powder has to agree to fund.
Yeah.
Right. And which means that, we've got to put up a good case in front of them. And, they're very reasonable. But, we've got to show them why and, what our needs are. But, our last MDP, which is called the Mountain Development Plan, was done in 2010.
Wow.
And you typically update these about every 10 years. So we're a little overdue.
Yeah.
For when the next plan comes in. There's not much left on the old plan to do. The Sunrise building is one of them. There's a couple other things. We'll carry that over, but next year, I think it'll probably be next year. It might be the year after. We're going to start working on a brand new one.
Very cool.
And it's a huge process. So we go through with some consultants and we kind of say, here's our wish list. For the whole mountain for like the next 10 years.
Everything we want.
So you throw kitchen sink at it, right? And you may not end up doing everything, but it's kind of like one of those things where in a perfect world, 10 years from now, this is what I want this place to look like, right? Or what we want this place to look like, I should say. And it's not just us that are making that decision. There's a public comment part of that. So you'll have a chance to put your opinion in, Josh,
Awesome.
or
anybody listening to this.
Yes.
Keep your eyes out for that.
Anybody listening to this, there will be public forums where we can present the plan and kind of, get different suggestions and people who have issues with things or want things a little bit different, they'll have their chance to speak their mind.
That's awesome.
Which I think is great. But kind of some of the things that we're thinking about, of course, is the new building at Sunrise.
Would that be, out of curiosity, would that be replacing the old building or would that be a new building near it and then the old building would still be functional as well?
The spot where we have approved is directly behind the lift.
Gotcha.
So kind of, takes up kind of that part of the parking lot.
Yeah.
Kind of almost, right, if you're looking straight up the mountain,
Gotcha.
From the Sunrise lift, it's right there. So
cool.
The long-term goal would be to put a building there that has kind of a bigger rental retail area, a nice bar with an outdoor component to it, and, a sit-down restaurant. You'd probably also have, a scramble food court area in there. And then the other building could be like more dedicated to ski school. And then, we've got Oregon Adaptive Sports over there too, so they're going to fit in.
Give them a little more space to operate out of.
So, whether they're in the new building or we give them a better space in the old building, we've been discussing with that. I love that organization.
Oh, they're awesome.
We want to be able to help that organization as much as we possibly can. I've got to know Pat, who's their executive director. I've got to know him a little bit.
Yeah.
And, we want to help them out too. And, so they'll be part of those discussions as well over there. But then, long term, we also want to put a 6-pack over there too.
Yeah.
So, with the kind of, because as we grow, we tend to be growing more over there.
Yeah. The east side has definitely been, obviously, partially with the new chairlift of Cloud Chaser going in more recently, but definitely I could see the east side has grown a lot more and more people are aware of the riding that's over there, which is just super fun. I spend a lot of time
I think it's great. I ski Cloud all the time.
Yeah.
I love it.
One of my favorite lifts, honestly. Yeah.
Actually, I've seen you over there a bunch of times.
A few times.
But, so that's one area that we'll be focusing on.
Cool.
Northwest is going to have to be replaced.
Absolutely.
And that's something that will probably happen sooner rather than later. I can't commit to a timeline now.
Totally.
But it will be sooner rather than later. But it's going to be unique. When we do decide to replace it, it's not going to be a full gutted out and put in a whole new lift. What it's actually going to be is you essentially replace the bottom and the top terminals. So everything will be brand new. right?
Yeah.
In the bottom and the top terminals, but the towers stay.
Gotcha.
So the towers stay.
So you're building new tops and bottoms that fit the old footprint.
Exactly, because there's spotted owl habitat over there. There and the entire outback area. So the majority of the Northwest area is spotted owl territory. They're protected species. And so, we don't really want to disturb them. We will have to put in for a variance.
Of course.
On some work that we're going to have to do on the lift, but we don't want to do a complete disruption.
Yeah.
Over there, you essentially get a brand new lift, but it's less disruption. Is what that will end up looking like. And so, we did just replace the motor with only probably 3 or 4 weeks left to go.
Yeah.
I wish it was sooner, believe me. So I'm really excited to see how that new motor is going to run for us this next year. I mean, it was flawless.
Yeah.
The 4 weeks that it was up.
Perfect.
But it is an area that, I always tell people that I was like, people ask, oh, what was the biggest pain point over your first year or whatever? And I say that it's the Northwest lift. And I think every single guest would agree with me.
I mean, it's been a thing for the last couple of seasons now, where I know some people that just don't ride Northwest because they were afraid of some of the previous issues with it. So,
and it frustrates me. Know that it frustrates us as a team as much as it frustrates everybody else. When I get a text that says we're having an issue with Northwest, first my heart sinks, and then I try to get over there.
Totally.
Because, one thing that I feel like is my role is, if there are going to be upset people over there, I want them talking to me. Yeah. Right. And there was one day we had some issues over there where I was over there and was able to talk to, quite a few people. There was a couple other times where, it wasn't as crowded over there when we had some issues, but, know that, we are absolutely trying our best over there. And we're, what happened with that motor, you could have never predicted. Yeah. Honestly, because, all the experts were telling us, and this is experts within our company and outside of our company, were telling us, oh yeah, no problem. We'll rebuild the motor and it'll be great. Yeah. And so, we ran it for a while. It ran great. But as soon as we went to put it off for the season, something else broke in it and caused the whole thing to unwind. And so essentially it became worthless. Yeah. At that point. And, thankfully, I got on the phone with Powder immediately and I was like, we need a brand new motor. I was like, we can't deal with this. I was like, we're going to have to run this on diesel and that's not ideal.
And that takes a lot of money to run it on diesel too.
Well, and it's not just that, it's the experience, right? I mean, it's a little loud up at the top. It's a little smelly up at the top.
Runs slower.
Runs a little slower. Yep. And, it's a long lift anyway. Yeah. So even running almost full speed, it's still a 10-minute lift. And I think it was, I timed it. It was 14 on the diesel. Yeah. So, it's a little bit slower and 4 minutes can make a difference when you're trying to get to POW. I get it.
Right. When you're jonesing for that powder day, I get that too.
Right. But that lift is certainly on the radar that has to be replaced. So, and then, going forward, we're always assessing Summit. Totally. And at some point we're going to have to replace the Summit lift. Yeah. And that's going to be a huge challenge.
That was another question I had for you just while we're on the topic of Summit. I heard a rumor. I don't know how true this was. Was it lightning that hit Summit? Yeah. Then that's why it's running slow now?
That's true. So gotcha. That happened in mid-April. Yeah. We had a lightning storm, and the lightning actually hit a radio tower. We actually checked. The Forest Service tracks every lightning strike. Yeah. Right? And so we were seeing issues, all kinds of electrical issues, and finally determined we thought it got hit by lightning. We checked with the Forest Service, and sure enough, the radio tower behind it got hit, and then it rode the rope. Wow. Yeah.
And basically just scrambled the electric system?
Scrambled a lot. So we actually have, there's a couple of, so we're running it slow now, just, to make sure we can run it.
Yeah. Because safety's first always.
Always. Yeah. And we could have probably closed it because it's probably a 4 or 5 day repair.
Yeah.
We could have closed it, but we discussed it, and we weren't willing to close it for 4 or 5 days. We would rather run it a little slower this time of year so that people can enjoy it.
Keep it through the season and then fix it in the summer.
Yeah, we'll fix it in the summer.
Totally.
We don't think that there's going to be any issues.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, it goes
What
along
a freak
with these,
occurrence that
with
was.
these like, it was like, oh my goodness. I was like, what's next? You know,
Yeah.
and it'd be middle of winter, you're getting hit by lightning.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird mountain for sure, like with that coastal weather that comes and hits us. You
And
kind of
there's something
talk
with volcanoes too.
absolutely.
It's something mystical.
It's
I'm
the Ring
convinced.
of Fire for sure. That being said, I mean, you came from Colorado
Yeah.
and you've been skiing Bachelor now this whole season. Like, how has that weather compared for you? Like, how has it been skiing out here? How have you found the snow and everything? Like, obviously very different than riding the Colorado Rockies.
Sure is, but I've had both extremes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I've had Colorado where, as a tool, all you really need is a broom.
Yeah.
To get rid of a lot of the snow, fortunate that way. But I grew up in Maine where, it's like paste and ice. And so skiing here, I think is closer to Colorado than about anywhere else. I mean, we still have plenty of days where we get nice dry powder. I had not known what a ski was. I will say that until I moved here.
The ski are a funny one to me. Growing up here, I actually just within the last 2 months got my first ski that I had one in like middle school maybe, but I haven't had a ski for the last like 15, 20 years, and now I have one again.
I use mine constantly because the one thing that I've had to get used to the most of skiing this mountain is trusting yourself when you can't see very well.
Ski by braille.
Yeah. Honestly, I call it skiing while blind. But because even on days when it's not storming, there's a lot of days where, we've just got a cloud.
Yeah.
Hanging out over the mountain. And it's flat light. There's only been a couple of days where it was so bad that I felt a little vertigo-ish, where it was like, I don't know if I'm going uphill or downhill and, that type of a thing. But what I love about this mountain more than any other mountain I've ever been to is how playful it is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is such a special, it's why like so many snowboarders love this mountain. Right. And skiers alike. I'm not trying to exclude skiers.
It's definitely a very snowboard friendly mountain. I mean, as long as you don't get caught in the wrong spot and have to hike out. But.
Totally. Because you can flatten yourself out in spots for sure. Yeah. And I do both. I both ski and snowboard. I mostly ski, but and even for skiers, I mean, there is so much here to ski. We are so lucky to have such a big mountain. Yeah. And when everything's open, it is amazing.
It's massive. It's crazy.
I only was able to get probably 10 days where I got off onto the backside, right? But probably top 5% of my days ever.
Wow.
Because it's so peaceful for me. It almost feels like, you're out there on your own, in the wilderness. Of course, you're skiing with a buddy.
Right.
Always. But by on your own, I mean, in your group. Yeah. And you're not seeing many people because we have such a big mountain and it spreads out so well.
And especially when you drop that backside. You're just in the trees. It's you, a couple buddies. And,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Or, you can stay a little bit more towards the east side and it's fairly open and it's open bowls. And to me, I've never seen a mountain that can be something for everybody as much as Mt Bachelor is. And I just feel so blessed to be able to be here. My whole life, skiing is my favorite thing. Right. Always has been, since I was 12 years old. Yeah. Actually, it wasn't my favorite thing once. When I was 7 years old, my very first ski run, I broke my leg.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
But you stuck with it.
Went after that. But I mean, we are so lucky.
We definitely are. I feel very blessed to call Mt Bachelor home for sure.
Right.
Aside from the mountain itself, I talked to you a little bit at the beginning of this about how you've been liking Ben and everything. But specifically to working on Bachelor and the community and the public as a whole, how have you found your reception here being the new president and general manager? I was nervous coming in because, I don't read a lot of social media. I feel like it's more healthy for me that way. But I heard stories. Yeah. I heard stories about how harsh
the locals can be, and how passionate everyone was. And I prefer to think of it differently. I prefer to think of it as, people here are super passionate.
Yeah.
And I love that. I'm super passionate too, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I love this business. I feel like we have an obligation to our community being in this business because we are such a big part of the community. So we've done a lot, I think, of really trying to improve that community relation.
Yeah.
Lauren, our new marketing director, she started about the same time I did. She has just been a breath of fresh air. And her whole team, doing story. I think they did a story on you, right? They did.
They just put Canutes out
that
yesterday
was great.
morning. Yeah.
That was great.
Old, 80-something-year-old.
Steve Gordon Steve Gordon, who's the CEO at St. Charles, turned me on to that. I had met him a couple weeks ago and hope to meet up with him again soon, but turned me on to that because, to me, that's just such a great story. And,
it's awesome.
And Lauren's been doing a good job of kind of storytelling within the community, whether it be with our employees or with the guests. And the whole goal there is to humanize, right? I mean, we're all people, right? We're just people that want to help other people, and that's why we're here, right? And so in the community, I've been on the Visit Central Oregon board. We've been really involved with Visit Bend. We're getting more involved with the chamber, the local chamber. We're involved a lot with Vominos Outside, the Fathers Group, Deschutes River. There's, and I know I probably shouldn't have started naming because I'm going to miss somebody, but, there's...
Shout out to all of you out there.
Totally.
All the amazing organizations.
Totally. But, the Play Forever Thursdays is something that, we had done at Copper that it was important to me to bring here, which kind of, helps us donate to somebody different every week, a local nonprofit.
Totally.
And allow some of our community members to learn about that, or maybe come up and ski on a day that they wouldn't normally ski because lift tickets are cheaper that day.
Yeah.
And it's important to me to make this accessible for our community, but also to be out there. We've done the pass holder parties pretty much monthly, which I think have been awesome.
I've thoroughly enjoyed them.
Yeah. And I think just... me being able to walk around and talk to our guests in kind of a casual environment over at Deschutes has been just great. And I think, to kind of close it out, we do have a passionate community. And there are times that I think that we may be treated a little unfairly. And that, people don't have a complete understanding before kind of making an opinion on something. But that's fine. That's the world we live in right now. And people are super passionate, and I appreciate that. And I actually appreciate when people come up to me and it's like, hey, have you thought about this? Or have you thought about this? And you know what? I love having good conversations with people.
Totally.
Right? And we're not always going to agree on things, but I bet we agree more than we disagree.
Generally speaking, I think most people do. Yeah.
And I think if you gave us, if some of the folks that, have been disenfranchised or whatever, would give us a chance, or, have a conversation, we might be able to come to a common ground. And maybe we won't in some cases. And, that's too bad. It makes me a little sad sometimes.
Right.
But, what I'm committed to here is to treating everyone fairly and to make sure that, we are doing the best that we can, for our guests, and that we get that. I think we've seen a little bit of a change kind of in the attitude this year, and, we still have to prove ourselves. I've been here a year. The majority of our leadership, a little more than half of our leadership team, have been here less than 2 years. Yeah. And so, we're going to make some mistakes here and there. There's no question about that, right? We're going to learn from them. We're going to get better. Yeah. But, consistency is going to be important, and we have to show it, right? And we have to continue on with consistency. We just can't be flapping. Yeah. We have to actually, do what we say we're going to do, which I think we've done a really good job of, and we're going to continue that going forward.
That's awesome. I will say, just from my perspective, being relatively involved with the mountain community, both in and out of, knowing people here and knowing people in the Skyliner lot and everything. Yeah. I've noticed a shift this
Good.
season for sure, just especially, from a leadership perspective. You definitely seem like you like being out there talking with the community a lot more than, like sitting behind a desk or anything. Like I see you out and about all the time over at the Rock Bar, down at the bottoms of the chairlifts. And I think it goes noticed and appreciated for sure.
Thank you. It's my favorite day, and some people may hate to hear this, but my favorite day is when I finally get back to my desk at 3:00 because, I popped into my office to just change and go out, and I get back to my desk at 3:00 and realize I haven't turned my computer on once the whole day. That's a perfect day for me.
That's a great day.
It really is. And certainly there's got to be time when, we're working on stuff and there's a time and a place for that. But it's not a Saturday. I can tell you that. On Saturdays, I'm out and about almost the entire day.
So speaking of favorite days, I only got a couple more questions for you, but do you have a favorite day, favorite run, favorite memory of any specific moment this season? Was there a favorite one that just sticks in your mind?
Yeah, I do. So we had a day where one of my good friends is the ops director at Copper Mountain. Yeah. His name's Bill Blair, and he and his family came out for their winter break to come visit and hang out here. He hadn't been here before. So I took he and his family out, and we had the perfect day. I mean, it was probably 10-inch fresh. It was right after President's. It might have been the week after Prez. We had quite a bit of fresh snow, but not so much that it was going to annoy kids or anything like that. So, did a few runs over here, went over to Northwest, did the Sparks run through there, which is one of my favorites.
So much fun.
I just love that area because it's not well traveled. Yeah. And I just love that there's just lots of pops you could do over there and lots of different choices you can make and go through. But at any rate, I had he and his wife and his two kids out there, and then we decided, you know what, we're going to go to Summit. We went up there. I took them off the backside, which, his wife was a little nervous for sure. The snow, it was starting to get a little warmer, so the snow was getting a little bit heavier. But it was just a gorgeous day. Not a cloud in the sky. One of those perfect bachelor days.
See all the way from Shasta up to Adams.
Yep, it was just gorgeous. And you're seeing the lakes behind, and we came barreling down, and come on down, and his kids were having so much fun. You could hear them yelling and screaming and all that. And his kids are a little younger than mine, but it was just so much fun to see them. His daughter cried when they left because she loved skiing Bachelor so much. So that was probably, I've had numerous favorite days, and I could probably think of 10 others, but that was one that kind of sticks with me.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. It's, especially when you can share it with people that you love. That's kind of what it's all about at the end of the day. So 2 more questions for you. One, I know this one's burning on the mind of every local every day. Why isn't Summit open?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it is right now.
Well, it's 3 o'clock right now.
Closed.
So, yeah.
But it's a great question, honestly, Josh. And I just had a conversation. I wish I could remember the gentleman's name, but I was up at the top of the lift today. Guy who's like, hey, today's my 61st day and I'm 61 years old. And I was super psyched for him. Yeah. And he's like, I've been skiing Bachelor for 43 years. He's like, I'd love to see you be able to get Summit open earlier. And these are those conversations that I love to have. And, they're not contentious or anything like that. But to me, they're a chance for me to kind of explain why some days. And so I used yesterday as an example. And I was like, our lift maintenance team got up at 5 a.m. And they were banging ice. Yeah. And it wasn't just Summit. All of our lifts were covered in ice. So in order to even get up to Summit, we got to do Pine first. Yep. Right. And so
there's a process.
We do Pine, we do Sky, we do Summit. Right. And I know, I read the comments. And so, a lot of people will be like, well, why don't you hire more people to do that? And that would be great. but then there'd be many days that they wouldn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
Right. And there's only a certain amount of people that kind of honestly have the fortitude to be climbing lift towers.
It's a gnarly job.
And be banging ice with a hammer. Because that's the only effective way to do it.
Yeah.
Because even the smallest piece of ice could be a safety concern, on there. If you think about it, if one of the grips from the chairs goes to grab on in the wrong spot, there's a bunch of ice there, we could have a problem.
Yeah.
So, we have to be super careful and make sure that the rope and the shivs and everything are completely clear and all the grips. And so it just takes time.
Yeah.
And so by the time, they can get up there and get that done, and again, they start at 5 a.m. And by the time they can get that done, then we have to send patrol up, right? So we send patrol up, and patrol has to do their thing, because there's plenty of times we get up there and we're like, wind gusts are just not good today.
I think one of my favorite examples of a good day that people would expect someone to be open, but it wasn't. It was only like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. It was a beautiful, sunny, clear day. But the wind up top was so strong. My buddy Aaron Fudge, he was on the podcast a couple episodes ago. There's a video of him throwing a chunk of ice about the same size and weight as their explosive charges, and it blew right back past him.
Yeah. And it is hard when you're down. The amazing thing about this mountain is we can be at the base with a 10 mile an hour wind that you barely feel.
Just nothing.
Right? By the time you get to the top of Pine, it's 50. And once you get to, over about 35, 40 miles, depending on the direction of the wind, you may have chair swing that, makes it really difficult.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And the worst thing you can do is, have the chair banging into towers and, those kind of things with people on them.
Yeah.
Right? And so, so it could be 50 there, but then it could be 110 up at summit.
Easily.
And that's not unusual.
No.
And when people are at the base, they'll look up and say, well, why isn't summit open? I was like, well, I kind of agree. I would say the same thing to you if I didn't look at the weather.
I mean, I think the easiest way to know why summit isn't open, if you go to the weather sensors.
Yep.
If you check those graphics, it can be insane what you're seeing on those sometimes.
Right. And there's times that it's like, there's times that it might cool down to like 30 miles an hour, but then you'll get a big gust. Yeah. And, we've got to make sure that, those big gusts aren't coming. And there's also times up there where it's just the terrain's not ready. Yeah. Maybe it needs to soften up a little bit.
Too icy or too.
It may need to soften up a little bit. So we're certainly, Ski Patrol has to take their time to assess that. They got to put their signs up. They got to mark everything off. So it takes a little bit of time. Totally. So when there are icing days, it is hard to be patient. I get it, right? You want to get out there and you want to just tear it up. But believe me, I get it. But know that, we want to get it open as much as everybody else does. And we want to do it quickly. Absolutely. And we feel like we're doing it in the most efficient way possible. And believe me, we're asking always. Yeah.
Like how do we streamline? Yeah. How do we improve?
Because like when I talk to some other fellow GMs here in Oregon, at Hood, they have a lot of similar issues. Yeah. Right? They haven't figured out a better mousetrap for that either. Nope. And
it's like guaranteed once someone figures it out, we'll tell everybody. We'll make it work.
Believe me, if we figure something out that's better, I have a few ideas that involve flamethrowers. I'm kidding.
I know a guy with one.
I'm kidding.
You try it out,
I actually own one. Yeah. They're phenomenal. But the, if there are better ways, we're all ears. Yeah. I do see suggestions, why don't you have them start at midnight? And it's like, well, we could have them start at midnight, but if we have them start at midnight, by the time we're ready to open again, we got to do it again. Yeah.
By the time you finish de-icing Summit, Pine will be iced over again.
Yeah. And then you got to go back and redo Summit. But, it's why we love this business, though, honestly, because
it's the challenges.
It's different every single day. Yep. If you would have told me in college, that, one of my biggest worries is going to be like, what's the weather like? And how does weather affect our business? Yeah. I never would have believed it.
If you had told me in college I'd be making a career out of yelling about weather on a chairlift, I wouldn't have believed you either.
Ain't that the truth?
So one last question for you. I know you've watched a few of my videos, and you know the tagline at the end is enjoy every day, y'all peace. So how do you enjoy every day?
I feel like I have a blessed life. I really do. And, I'm grateful. every day. I get to work with some of the best people in the industry, and some people that, I consider close friends. Who I get to work with every day. And, I get to live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I'm so thankful for that. I've been thankful in my life to live in, 3 different beautiful places, in Maine and Colorado and here. And, to me, making every day my best is I just think about days that I can come up here and I can work and, get to interact with my team, maybe go, ski around with Dustin Smith, our ops director, a little bit. And we'll kind of talk about some future plans, which I get super jazzed about.
Hell yeah.
And then I get done with work and I go down and I play 9 holes of golf.
Yep.
And because, it gets dark late.
Yeah.
And
just a recommendation from a fellow Central Oregonian who's been doing it for a while. Gets even better if you add a quick paddleboard stop in the middle between the mountain and the golf course.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that sounds great. And we do that too. We do lots of, my family and I will rent a boat every once in a while on Cultus and go out there and have fun and we hit the river too. And again, I just, I love your tagline because I live it.
Yeah.
And it's why I left corporate America, and came to something like this. I could have kept chasing dollars in corporate America if I wanted to, but I feel like this gives the best quality of life that I could ever imagine.
Hell yeah. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for sitting down with me. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
For everybody out there listening, there you have it. That's John Merriman giving his 2 cents about Mt Bachelor after a year of being here. We're stoked for the summer season, stoked to get up a mountain, but I might actually get on a bike a couple times.
Look at you,
Josh. We'll see. But everyone out there listening, of course, follow along, like, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things that help keep me going. I look forward to seeing you up here this closing weekend. I'm going to work my ass off tonight, get this edited and posted tomorrow, Saturday. Closing day Sunday, I'll be emceeing the Pond Skim. So let's get out there, have a good time, and most importantly, don't forget to enjoy every day, y'all. Peace.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man, my pleasure. Thank you.